Okay, so the question here today is, how much does a good friend worth? So this is the question one of the king asked Shanananda. Shanananda is Buddha's cousin brother. So the king asked this question. So what do you think the answer was? Her answer is, one, the king, personality of Kosala, asked Buddha, Shanananda told me that a good friend is worth as much as half of a holy life. Is that true? So here's the Buddha's answer. Buddha corrected Ananda's remark by saying, a good friend is worth the whole of the holy life itself. So what it means by that is, if you have a good friend, you are set. Because your good friend will help you in your daily life and in your samsara. Okay? So even though Shanananda right here answered the king's question that, hey, a good friend is worth about half of your holy life or your great life, Buddha said, no. A good friend is worth the whole of your holy life itself. Okay, so that's the words of Buddha. So we're going to learn more today about the Buddha's advanced definition of the fool by Buddha. Now, last week, we already touched a few things about advanced definition of the fool. Right? We talk about people who do not know the Four Noble Truths, people who do not understand the 12 links of dependent origination. So let's see, we learn more in that aspect. So let's look at these questions. Why do we need a friend? Why are friends important for, or a good friend important for our daily life and for our samsara? The Buddha definition of these are, all right? So for our daily life, we need a good friend. So daily life in Buddha words, whether it's called, we call it mundane or outbound, meaning you're not trying to get out of samsara. You're just happy here in this samsara life. So to get help in leading a righteous and prosperous life, you want to be rich, you want to have an easygoing life, happy with your friends and family. Okay. Now, what about samsara? To get help in seeing the law of nature, the universal truth, and liberating from samsara. So for the samsara, not only for this life, for your next life, and for all the lives coming after, you want to get out of this circle of fool, this samsara. Now you need a good friend. A good friend could be a monk, your mommy, your daddy, your teacher. It could be anyone, but they are also considered a very good friend. So for your daily life, you need a good friend because you want to prosper. For your samsara, you want it because you want to see the law of nature, you want to see the universal truth, and to liberate from samsara. Okay, so in Buddha advanced definition of the fool, for our mundane life or our outbound life or our daily life. So what is the definition of a fool? A fool is someone who does not practice 38 mangalas. Now over here, what is important is the word practice. Now all of us know 38 mangalas. Every single person in Burma knows 38 mangalas. There is no one who does not know 38 mangalas. Even kids who are Christians and Muslims, they know this because they hear this all the time. But the key here is the word practice. You have to practice. If you just know it, you don't use it, is as useless as not knowing it. If you have a car, but you don't use it, you don't drive it. Either because you don't know how to drive it or you don't want to drive it, then that car is useless. Now the same thing, you know 38 Mangalas. And if you don't practice that 38 Mangalas, you are a fool. So for your daily life, you want to be successful. You want to practice 38 Mangalas. Now another one is, a fool is the one who does not know the cause and effect and law of karma. In other words, a fool is the one who does not know and who does not apply the 12 links of dependent origination. So for you, you know the 12 links of dependent origination. I think you just need to practice it so that you are not a fool for your mundane life. Now for some, so this is very important because this is the advanced definition of a fool. For your daily life, you got to practice 38 Mangalas. Again, I will focus the word practice. You got to practice it. No one is not enough. You got to apply it, practice it. And also you got to know the cause and effect and law of karma. What I mean by that is understanding and applying the 12 links of dependent origination. It is so important that we have been reciting this 12 links of dependent origination every night. But remember, reciting is not enough. You got to understand it and practice it. Now we're learning 38 Mangalas, and again, the same thing. Some of you now memorize it, but very soon, all of you will memorize it, but that's not enough because 38 Mangalas is a practice. You got to practice it. Now the same thing in samsara. All of you know Four Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Path. If you don't know it yet, that's okay. We're going to learn it soon. But again, this is a practice that you need to practice. As you know, we recite this 12 links of dependent origination every night. And a lot of you might think that it's all about Buddhism. Now, what we're going to discuss is the 12 links of dependent origination is all about science and the law of karma. Okay, it is not about religion. It doesn't matter what religion you are, what religion you believe in, even if you don't have a religion. This law of karma applies to anyone and everyone in this multiverse. So that's what we're going to learn today. This is the law of karma that applies to anyone and everyone, okay? So those of you who are new to our class may not know what this is. So, but those of you who have been in the class and who pray with us every night know this by heart. So we're going to explain today what is this 12 links of dependent origination and why is that important? And why we say, if you don't understand the 12 links of dependent origination, you are considered a fool. Now the question is, everybody wants to know, how do we start in this multiverse? Do we begin with the little DNA from the ocean and become a little fish, and a little fish come on the land? There's time of dinosaur and goes to monkeys and humans. Is it true? Okay. So this is what we call Darwinian theory, if you know Darwin. Now, or is that Big Bang theory, what Einstein said, or is it a dark matter? Okay, so what's the relationship between this 12 links of dependent origination and how the multiverse started? We're going to discuss today. Now, I want you to look at this picture very carefully, okay? And read this out for me. When conditions are met.
When conditions are met,
out of dark energy arises basic elements and multiverse. Out of basic elements arises a life force.
Arises a life force.
Out of a life force arises mind and material. Out of mind and material arises six senses, receptor, and organs. Between inner and outer senses, contact, touch, chemical reaction happens. Out of contact, touch, chemical reaction arises feeling, sensations of experience. Out of feeling, sensation, experience arises bonding, interlacing of things. Out of bonding arises irreversible chemical reactions. Out of irreversible chemical reactions arises life forms. Out of life forms arises initiation, inception of conception, illusion. Out of initiation, inception, conception arises physiology, a process in human life.
Okay, so does it sound anything religious to you?
No.
Not at all, right? Does it sound somewhat biological, physics, science?
Yeah. Sounds
yes?
Scientific.
Yeah, scientific, right? Now, how many of you familiar with Big Bang Theory? Raise your hand. All right, Heinta, tell us what exactly is Big Bang Theory as much as you know.
In the beginning of the universe, the universe was compact into a very small ball, and the ball exploded, creating the universe.
All right, very good. So basically, that's what it says here, out of dark energy. So how many of you are familiar with dark energy? No? Okay. So those of you who are interested in science, those of you who wants to be in science field, astronaut, physics, you will be learning about these, the dark energy. And according to Big Bang theory, just like Heinta said, okay, long time ago, there was nothing, just dark space. And suddenly there's an explosion. So from that dark energy, because of one thing happened, these basic elements formed in our multiverse. Now that's what happened here. From the dark energy, we have some basic elements. Now, the key here is this asterisk. Now, asterisk stands for what? One conditions are met. Now, this is a key. Now, these conditions are not easy, but when those conditions, there's a lot of conditions are met. Now, these follows. Out of basic elements, suddenly arises a life force. Now, out of the life force arises mind and material. And out of mind and material arises six senses, receptors, and organs. Now, between inner and outer six senses, there is contact or touch or chemical reaction happen. Out of those chemical reaction arises feeling, sensation, and experience, like this here. Now, because of those feeling, sensation, and experience, when conditions are met, chemical bonding happen, or interlacing of things happen. Now, out of those bonding arises irreversible chemical reactions. Some of the reactions are irreversible. They cannot be reversed. Now, those of irreversible chemical reaction arises life forms. And life forms arises initiation, inception, or illusion. Now, because of that, arises a physiological process in our life. Now, this sounds very scientific, right? So, in fact, this exactly is the 12 links of dependent origination that you just saw here. Okay, this is just in scientific terms. So, why does Buddha say you need to understand 12 links of dependent origination? If not, you're a fool. Because understanding 12 links of dependent origination is understanding the science, understanding the world that you live in, the multiverse that you live in. and yourself, your body. So if you don't understand yourself, if you don't understand your inner body, if you don't understand how things work in your body and surrounding you and in this multiverse, you are a fool. Because that 12 links of dependent origination is this. So there's a search for universal truth. What is universal truth? Do we have to know the end of the universe or multiverse to actually find the universal truth? Okay, that's what we're going to discuss. Now, according to what we believe in, according to Buddha and Dhamma, okay, Dhamma basically is the universal truth. So what's the definition of Dhamma? Dhamma itself means universal truth. So if you're learning Dhamma, you're not practicing or learning about religion or Buddhism. If you're learning Dhamma, you're learning about the universe that you live in, the multiverse that you live in. And there are two different things. So in Pali, we call it Ijata. Ijata means yourself or your internal universe. So you have your own internally. And in Pali, we call it Baheda, which is your external environment. Or in this earth, this world, this universe. And outside of this universe, there are a lot of other universes. We call it multiverse. Now, all those outside of your body, that's called Baheda. Now, Dhamma, or the law of nature, or the universe's truth, explain all about this. Now, that's what you want to learn. Now, if you understand this, this will help you to be successful in your daily life, this life, and in your samsara. Okay? So try to be familiar with these two words, Ijata and Baheda. Ijata means your internal environment or yourself. Baheda means your external environment or outside. Okay? Now, the first cause, we talk about this, it used to be the dark space. There's nothing, just darkness alone. Okay, in Pali, we call it Nidana. The cause means Nidana. Now, the first cause will be the first Nidana. Now, Buddha preached a sutta called Nidana Sutta. Okay, in Nidana Sutta, he talks about the origin of the universe. He talks about our samsara. He talks about why we go round and round in samsara. He basically talks about this 12 links of dependent origination. That sutta is named Nidana, or the cause. Okay, that's what we talk about. Out of the dark energy, one conditions are met, arise of basic elements in multiverse. Okay, now today, as I just explained before, we have dark energy, dark matter. And that's a whole specialty that if you're interested in physics, you can specialize in dark energy and dark matter. Okay, so just for you, because some of you might be interested in dark matter. Now, those actually science fiction movie actually came from these. They represent the dark energy. That's why the dark energy is more powerful. Okay, now those movies actually are based on this philosophy and this idea that we will discuss later. Okay, so I want one of you to read this for me. Tata Jackson, can you read this for me, please?
The first Nidana is called ignorance. Samsara gives for deliverance.
Ida
Pasayata, this leads to that. Patisamupata, forget. Error. Being error is beyond compare. Now ignorance gives rise to compounding cause. Then consciousness rises without a pause. Next, consciousness leads to body-mind. Sense faculties are then formed in kind repeat. Sense faculties then cause connection, leading down the path to sense perception. The next basic cause is craving. Then this brings attachments, mental, raving, repeat.
Now, when you say repeat, you're repeating this one. Aware. Being aware.
Being aware is beyond compare.
Okay.
Attachment gives rise to gestation. Then comes birth and origination. Birth always leads to the same story. The compounding is illusory. Aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Identity leads to our demise. Accept old age, sickness, and death to be wise. This process is our innate condition, dependent origination. Aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Awareness that is free of dukkha's embrace will guide us on the path to nirvana's grace.
Okay, very good.
Aware. Being aware is beyond compare.
Thank you.
Aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Aware. Being aware is beyond compare.
Thank you, Jackson. So this actually is a song that some of you might know. So this song beautifully talks about this 12 links of dependent origination. Now, the first nidana we just explained, the first cause is the dark matter or ignorance. Now, when you are ignorant, you're in delusion, meaning you're in the dark, you don't see anything. If you don't see anything, you don't know what the truth or what is wrong. Now, that's the first cause. Samsara gave forced deliverance, ida pisayata, meaning it does Pali, meaning this leads to that. Ida, in this, pisaya causes that. Now that is called Patisatamupa, okay? The 12 links of dependent origination, that's in Pali. Now, if that happens, what is important for you to is to be aware, to have awareness. So that's the reason why whenever we meditate, whenever you do anything, you gotta have awareness. Okay, being aware is beyond compare, meaning it is so important for you to be aware of what you do. Now, ignorance gives rise to compounding cause, meaning ignorance starts and other 12 links follow. Then consciousness rises without a pause. Some faculties follow. So it keeps going for explaining about 12 links of dependent origination, to a point that one, you become a human, you will be old, it is given, you'll be sick, and you'll die one day, okay? You gotta accept those if you want to be wise. Now that process called 12 links of dependent origination is our innate condition. So I just explained to you about the multiverse, which is your outside or behavior. This is about your inside, your inner self, or ijata. Now, this process is our innate condition, dependent origination. Now, one that happens if you want to be out of your samsara, what you need is awareness. That will make you free of the dukkha and will guide us on the path to nirvanas. Okay, so this is a very meaningful, and it is a song that most of you know.
The first nidana is called ignorance. Samsara gives false deliverance. Ida Pachayata, this leads to that. Paticca Samuppada begat. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Now ignorance gives rise to compounding cause. Then consciousness rises without a pause. Next, consciousness leads to body, mind, sense faculties are then formed in kind. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Sense faculties then cause connection, leading down the path to sense perception. The next basic cause is craving. This then brings attachments, mental raving. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Attachment gives rise to gestation. Then comes birth and origination. Birth always leads to the same story. That compounding is illusory. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Identity leads to our demise. Accept old age, sickness, and death to be wise. This process is our innate condition, dependent origination. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Awareness that is free of dukkha's embrace will guide us on the path to nirvana's grace. Truth can never be found near or far, yet in our heart is the light of that star. Aware, aware, is beyond compare. Aware, 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 aware. Being aware is beyond compare. Being aware is beyond compare.
You need this 38 mangalas or 38 factors of auspiciousness. Now, each mangala, I put numbers here, number 1 to number 38 here. So since we are going to learn all 38 mangalas, I'm not going to go over that today, but you have learned about the first, the second, and the third, and a little bit about fourth. Now, we're going to move on a little bit more about what we discussed today. All right, so the first sasha or dukkha sasha, life is full of unpleasant experience. It doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter where you live, okay? You still have at least some unpleasant experience, always. Now, that unpleasant experience or dukkha sasha happened because of the samudaya sasha or because of the attachment. In fact, because of the 12 links of dependent origination. So this samudaya sasha is the same as 12 links of dependent origination that we just talked about. Now, there is an end to that unpleasant experience. That end is called nirodha, okay? The end, nirodha. And to get to that nirodha, there's a path, okay? Or there's a way that is called magga session. So you gotta memorize all these four: dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, and magga. Those are called Four Noble Truths or Four Session. Now, we haven't learned about 38 mangalas, and this 38 mangalas is linked to the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the Magga Session. So this path that we want to walk, we want to take to get to Nirodha, so that you can be liberated from samsara, that Magga Session. Magga Dasha basically is the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, there is a relationship between this Noble Eightfold Path and 38 mangalas. Okay? Now, there are three portions in Noble Eightfold Path: Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Now, repeat after me: Sila,
Sila,
Samadhi,
Samadhi,
Panya.
Panya.
Again: Sila,
Sila,
Samadhi,
Samadhi,
Panya.
Panya.
Now, each of these, you put right in front of each one. So right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, right view, and right intention. Now, these three things fall under Sila. Okay? Now, if you look at 38 mangalas, so these three can be explained from mangala number 1 to 21. Now, Samadhi, which includes right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, can be explained from mangala 22 to 30. And the Panya, right view and right intention, can be explained from 31 to 38. Now, you don't need to memorize which one is linked to which mangalas, but you need to memorize the what are the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you notice here, all in red, SALEMCVI, Sil MacV is the mnemonic. So if you memorize SIL MACV, you will have that in this order: speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration, view, and intention. We would like you to memorize this also. Sooner or later, you need to understand this. You need to memorize this. Only then you will be able to understand this Noble Eightfold Path. Now, SIL MACV, SALEMCVI. Sila basically is morality, the right speech, right action, right livelihood. On the other hand, for you, the 5 precepts. Now, samadhi is concentration that you are practicing through meditation, but you're gonna put good effort, the right effort into it. You're gonna be mindful of what you're doing, and you're gonna concentrate. Then you're gonna have wisdom with the right view and right intention. So that mnemonic here is SIL MACV, SALEM.